All right, and so this is on now. This is the Trigger Trainer podcast because it's just time to do one because honestly we can't make content on our own. So we're gonna use this to basically post-produce content and let y'all get more of an in-depth look into who we are because I'm personally a very private person, even though I put a lot of stuff out. Y'all only see like the business side of stuff. So the podcast, y'all get to see the personal side of us. We got Kyle here. Co-hosts, we're all going to just be doing this, and you'll see more team members come in and out, and there's different guests as we start to get on it. But I guess the real first episode of the Trigger Trainers podcast. What we're going to do today is we're just going to go through basically our history of how we met and how we got into it, because we didn't even know, but like we have a lot of similar history that basically happened 10 years apart in the city. So we'll start with you. Let's go through the background, where you're from, and just start to finish.
Cool. So I grew up originally in New York. Got here when I was 12. Went to high school here. All through the early years. Went to Edgewater. Graduated 2004, and then kind of went to USF for a semester, and then left Tampa and went to join the military. I was in the military from 2005 to 2011. Got out at the end of 2011, and then got into different forms of armed security. From armed security, went into law enforcement. From law enforcement, here I am now, running my own training company. That's pretty much it. That was pretty much a rundown of what I.
Where'd you grow up in New York?
I grew up in Elmont, right on the edge of Long Island and Queens. So grew up there until I was 12 and got to that age where I needed a little more supervision. My mom worked long days, so came down here, lived with my grandparents. My grandparents raised me through my teenage years, and yeah.
So school up there, you did middle school or elementary school there, and then you came here for middle school, or was it?
Because elementary school ended at 6th grade for me. So when I got here, I was 7th grade, right in the middle of middle school. So I got here in 7th grade.
And so you moved here. People don't know, but you lived in the Lockhart section of Orlando. So did you immediately move into Lockhart, like as soon as you got here?
Yep. Or? Moved right into the Pine Hill / Lockhart area. Went to Lockhart Middle School way before you did. This was late 90s. Yeah, so I went to Lockhart Middle in late 90s, and then transitioned from there into Edgewater.
Heard. Yep. The basic stuff that was around. What was Lockhart like back then?
Man, it was rough, man. It was concrete jungle.
I say it didn't change.
It didn't change. 2 years later, it didn't change. Nah,
it was exactly the same.
Jungle, man. So I went from, I don't want to say a rough area in New York, but area that had its struggles and its troubles, right into an area in Orlando that had its struggles and its troubles. My experience from New York to Orlando changed a lot from the north to the south, but as far as like, that middle income area that still had its hood tendencies.
Yeah,
I kind of stayed in the same niche.
That's exactly what that area is. Yep.
From New York straight into Lockhart.
What's the culture difference like between like north and south? Because like I got a friend who's living in the north right now, but she's like a southern girl, so she's like, yo, they're different up here. Like they're to the point. There's no southern hospitality.
Nah, it's different, man. You get away from that. Like you said, there's no southern hospitality. There's no small talk.
Nope.
In New York, I was used to going to waking up in the morning, helping my uncle own the car shop and worked at different car shops. So I help him. I move the cars in the morning, and then at night. Come home from school, kind of watch myself from 3rd grade on. So it was tough, man. It was a little bit of a concrete jungle. There's no small talk. There's no, hey, how you doing?
It's all to the point. What you want?
One neighbor that I knew, and they were like family. Other than that, I didn't know really none of my neighbors. It was just like they're there.
Yep.
And if I got a head nod, it was a good day. To coming down here, where I knew my whole neighborhood. Made some lifelong friends from people in the neighborhood. Got to play basketball in the neighborhood.
Yep.
It's just a different environment. In New York, you play ball, you got to go to the park.
You got to walk down somewhere.
Yeah,
a couple blocks.
Nobody had basketball hoops outside their house. It was a different environment. So going to the park, dealing with the the issues at the park.
The park.
The park, literally. Big 20-foot gates.
Yep.
Kept you in the basketball courts and stuff like that. To moving here, where it was just like everybody had a hoop outside their house, and everybody kind of lived together. And, it was a lot more togetherness, more family oriented.
Did you what were your early hustles like? So when you're in New York, I mean, it's the hustler, like it's the hustler city. So like, what were the early hustles or what you're doing?
Yeah, you grow up quick, man. You know, you see some rough stuff. You grow up quick. You just got to keep up. You know what I mean? I was the oldest in my generation, so I leaned on the generation that was above me, and so I was the young one. I was young, and you know, I had to be tough and had to grow up with everybody else and had to fit in with all my cousins that are 6, 7, 10 years older than me, and that was just what it was. So you know, you grow up quick.
Yep.
You know, you see some crazy stuff. You see drug deals. You see fights. You see, you know, crazy stuff.
Yeah.
As opposed to here, where it was like a more sheltered life, you know, more of a suburby type lifestyle. So, yeah, it was different.
When you did you play sports in high school?
Yeah.
What sports did you play?
I played basketball.
All 4 years, or how many?
Nope, ninth grade.
Just ninth?
Yep.
That's funny. So did I.
Yeah.
Just ninth grade. Like I did not play sophomore year.
Yeah.
Interesting. So why did you play sophomore year?
So for me, it was more of like transportation back and forth. My grandparents were getting a little older. It was tough to get to and from practice games and stuff like that. So
that makes sense. Were you a good student in school? How was school for you?
School was good. School came kind of easy to me.
Yeah.
Had
honor roll, AB, straight A's.
Man, I think I graduated like a 3.6.
Oh,
I
shit.
got bright futures.
Oh yeah.
Going into USF, so everybody was kind of pissed off when I left and joined the military. So yeah, for me it was just like boom, jump in.
Like easy work, just come, be a student. Like just teacher say it, you get it, do the test, boom, out of there. I was like the other Kyle. He's like apparently like an amazing test taker where he's like, yo, I don't need to do homework. Like I just say the information, I will hear it, I'll take the test, pass. And I'm just like, you are an animal, like a different breed of robot, something like that.
I was kind of the same way. I mean, some certain classes I say I had my struggles in. I think Calc 1, I had issues just kind of understanding Calc. But other than that, man, I didn't really have too many. I hated chemistry.
Yeah, chemistry stopped me from becoming a doctor.
Yeah, bro, I hated chemistry. So for me, it's like, if I could just learn something, I would learn the principle and then be able to apply it to everything.
Yep.
But with chemistry, I had to memorize stuff, and I was not a good studier. So I never studied well.
So you were just basic fundamentals, and it's like, okay,
that was it.
Tell me the basics, and I can at least get to the advanced stuff later on.
That was it.
See, I was not a good student.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a good student. School was a struggle the whole way through. My brain, it really wasn't a struggle. Teachers didn't know how to teach me specifically. And it was like, that kid needs to be taught a certain way. Like, he will sit in his chair every which way, but like, he's listening. Yeah. Even if he's looking that way, like, he hears you with his left ear, but he's looking that way. You don't need your eyes to listen. Yeah. But they just didn't quite get that. So yeah, I was not an AB's. Like, I don't think I got honor roll at all in high school.
Oh, man.
Like, not once.
Yeah.
And then, like chemistry. Like, I thought I was gonna become a doctor, and I was like, oh, that'd be like, I was a radiologist because I was like, I don't even got to see patients. I just got to look at an X-ray, tell you what it is, and I get paid like $400,000.
Yeah.
And then they introduced stoichiometry in chemistry, and I was like, yeah, fuck that. Like, like this is over. We're not doing this at all. When did you decide you were gonna go into military?
To be honest with you, it was a spur of the moment type thing. It was just like, it wasn't like something that I calculated and, thought out and processed. It was just like college thing. I went to school to become a computer engineer. And I went my first semester. I just didn't like it. I had a class called Foundations of Engineering, and I hated it. And it was like, this is what being an engineer is. I want no parts of it. So I took engineering technology 4 years at Edgewater in high school, and I loved it. It was a great class. I had issues my first year with my teacher. After that, the next 3 years, I ended up being a TA my senior year. Loved it.
Yep.
Loved the class was phenomenal. We made robots, and he kind of tailored it to do what you want in engineering technology. It wasn't like so structured.
Yeah, I was gonna say like, this is the game plan. This is what you gotta do. It's like, what do you think you want to do? Let's try to do that.
Exactly. So that was when you get to college. It's like, this is what you're gonna do. I don't care what you want to do. This is what you're gonna do. And everything that we were gonna do, I hated. So I was like, you know what? I'm done with this.
That's fair enough.
After my first semester, Christmas time, I came home. I sat down, thought about it. And my grandparents and my parents were really kind of anti-military. So at the time, my grandmother's little brother, Carl, was the only person I told I was going into the military. And so, it was like I made a phone call one night. We chopped it up for like an hour. And he was like, man, you're tough. You'll be okay. You grew up tough.
Just point blank.
Yep, he was like, you'll be fine. And so, you know what? I was like, all right, let me do it. And then I acted like I was going back to school, and I went to basic training.
It's like, yeah, so a semester, come back in uniform.
Yeah. And so shortly after that, you know, I told my grandparents, I think I wrote them a letter from basic at the end, and then let them know, you know, what I did, what I was doing. And then, you know, I got more support than I thought I would, to be honest with you. I got a lot more support than I thought I would. They were upset because they wanted to know, but you know, it was already done. So they were like, you know, whatever you do, we're gonna support you. So
fair enough. So you enlisted in 04?
05.
05. So how old were you when 9/11 happened?
When 9/11 happened, I was 15.
15?
I was in 10th grade. Yeah, 10th grade.
So how did that impact you as like a major like America moment?
It did, man, because, you know, I was old enough to really understand the impact, and I have an older cousin.
And being from New York too, like
being from New York and having family there, and then I had an older cousin that was there at the time. She lived here, but she was there at the time, and not being able to get in contact with her having friends that worked in the building, her connecting with those friends, I didn't know where she was.
Yep.
And I just remember she was going to the city that day because at the time the NBA socks were like the move. Everybody had to have NBA socks, right? So, you know, I used to wear my NBA socks to play ball. And so I was like, make sure you get me NBA socks. Whatever you do, I need you
pick
to go
up
to
these
the
socks.
NBA store and get me my socks. And I remember speaking to her the night before, and she was like, I'll get you the socks. Like, relax. And I know the NBA store was downtown. So I was like, oh, man, that's really close to, you know, the Twin Towers. So I remember freaking out. I had drove to school. I don't even think I was supposed to be driving yet. I had drove to school by myself, at least. I drove to school that day, and I left early. So I went to first period, and then I think I left between first and second period. When the towers went down. And then, like, I went home, and I was so, like, out of it. I was like, man, I'm going to drive to New York. Like
right now?
Couldn't get in contact with anybody. Phones didn't work. It was crazy for everybody up there. So I couldn't speak to my mom. I couldn't speak to my uncle. I couldn't speak to my cousin. And so for me, it was like I was about to jump on I-95 and just ride out.
Take it there.
Yeah, man. So 9/11 definitely hit me hard. It definitely. That's kind of when I started thinking about the military. To be honest with you, it was in my head from that point. Like, what do I want to do? And then, you know, being a good student, and having the GPA and having bright futures, I knew financially I wouldn't be too much of a burden to go to college for my family. So I said, okay, let me just, you know, do the college thing instead of joining the military. But then when I realized that college really wasn't for me and the path that I wanted to go down, that's when I was like, all right, time for the military. See what they have to offer.
Yep. And so you don't come from a long military background, like you said. There was only like one person that was in the military in your family.
It was just my granduncle.
Interesting.
My granduncle was the guy. Yeah.
Interesting.
So it kind of led me down that path.
Yeah, I just recently found out I come from a much longer military background than I even thought. Like World War One, like 1, 2, Vietnam, Desert Storm, Iraq, like down the line. And I'm like, oh shit, I had no idea. Like I knew Grandpa, I knew my dad, but then my mom did the whole Ancestry.com, and she like traced it back to like the original family member that came from Africa.
That's crazy.
Yeah, like they went back there, and like all of us, everybody.
My dad was Air Force, but he didn't.
My grandpa was Air Force.
Yeah, my dad was Air Force, but he didn't stay in like long. And I think it was actually before I was born. He had vision issues, so he was like legally blind in like one eye.
Oh yeah.
He kind of just tried to play it off like, let me just stay in as long as I can. And I think I don't know if he finished basic or after basic. They were like, look, bro, you can't see.
Yeah, like your bullet went that way.
You can't see, dude. So yeah, I think that was like my dad's story. My dad actually joined the Air Force, like he was ID and everything, and then he, with his vision, they, he got separated. So yeah, I'm like the first person since my granduncle, I think, in my like immediate family. Like I have a bunch of uncles. Like my dad's brother. My dad's brother was Army. I have another uncle or cousin, really, that was Army. But again, this is like early to mid 80s.
Yeah, so like
the only person that was like career military that I like saw physically in the military, because they did like 4 years, like, you know, when I was an infant. But the only person I saw that was like career military was my Uncle Carl, and he was always, to me, always a squared away guy. One of my favorite,
Yeah.
He wasn't that old. So, for me, he resonated with me a lot. So, and we spent a lot of time together too, because he actually got sick and he was down when I was in high school. He stayed with my grandma. My grandparents helped him, heal up and get better. And then when he got sick the last time, he stayed with my mom. So anytime I got a choice, at that point I was active duty, and anytime I got a chance to go home, he was always there. So me and him, we spent a lot of time together too. So
yeah, I just learned a lot about the military, but I had just similar background. I mean, born '98, so by this time you're already kicking, doing your thing. Exactly. So you got here, and I show up too. And I've lived in Orlando entire life. Like, came home, lived in Rosemont, so near Lockhart. Didn't even know that till later on. Then moved to Texas Ave. Then moved to Balboa, towards like the outer Ocoee area. Okay. Then we moved to Lockhart. This is like 07. Okay. This is like right before the recession hit. So moved to Lockhart. Good Friday. Like, housing market is like in the bubble. Yeah. 08 hits, housing market pops, and it's just like, oh shit, like this is a weird life right now. Because it's just like I feel like during 08 when you went outside, it was like everybody is struggling. But like, and you can just see it in their face, like around. I feel like it was even the coldest time it had been until like recently. Absolutely. So that's like 07. Obama was just getting in the office. I remember watching him go in the office. My little sister was born that year too. Okay. That's third. So that's 07.
She was born in 07?
Yeah, she was born in 07.
Oh, man, my son Jay was born in 07, my oldest.
Yeah, I'm about to say, like, they're all around the same age in terms of that little group. Yeah, 07. This time, I remember my grandpa died at like when I started kindergarten. But like I said, he was Air Force. He was one of the coolest individuals. Like, and you didn't even know. Like, he was in the Air Force, but he also worked for NASA afterwards as like a firefighter. So he would go to Africa to train them for when the shuttle, like if they had to deport the shuttle, he trained them to like go in the fucking ocean and rescue them. Wow. And like, so like, he was a fit guy, like to the T. And then in Vietnam, he was unfortunately a victim of Agent Orange, and like he was spraying the trees down, so he ended up getting cancer from that later on, and it affected him. And then of course, just with the stuff that happened in the 80s in general, just the crack era and all that hit the community hard too. But he was in the military. I had an uncle who was also in the Navy, and that was his brother. Okay. And he actually retired from the Navy. Nice. And then we had two more of my uncles. One of them was Army Special Forces. He's actually he's reserve right now, I'm pretty sure. Another uncle was Navy. Okay. Like, yeah, it's a whole lot. Like, my stepsister's in the Army. She's in the Army. I got another sister in the Army. Like, it is a long line of military people that I didn't even realize. So you start looking back and it's like, oh shit, like there's 7 people that are like former military or at least active right now. That's dope. Yeah, like, school was not a good student. Wouldn't say I wasn't a good student. Like, I had a high vocabulary, but like I was never diagnosed with dyslexia. But like on the backside, I'm like, yeah, those might make sense, because I'm like, that B, I just pronounce it as a D, and I can't tell you why. And I was like, that word just doesn't make sense. Like, sound it out. It doesn't make sense in my head. Like, and you can sound it out all day. Tell me the word. I'll be able to repeat it, use it in context, but that doesn't mean I can spell it. Exactly. So spelling was always an issue just growing up. Yeah, just the whole time. But like, I could, and like, reading, I feel like for black kids are like an issue. I think the real reason is like, if you let black kids read about business and money, especially like black boys, I guarantee they'll be more interested as opposed to reading a novel. I told my mom later on, I was like, if you would have gave me books about business and money, I guarantee I'd have paid attention. But like, Cam Jansen is only going to keep me interested for so long. Like, just point blank.
My dad was like that, man. My dad was, like everybody, hated reading as a kid. And then as I got older, my dad started finding stuff that piqued my interest. Mm-hmm. And that was like, my thing was like detective books and the money. Like anything that was derived at bettering myself or putting myself in a better position. Yep. My dad put me on it, and he was like, yeah, you don't always have to read like these black books. Like, there is literature out there that will help you and stuff that'll pique your interest. Mm-hmm. And that's what kind of really got me into reading. And spelling was a little bit of an issue for me when I was young too. And then my dad, I always give him credit for this too, because he would just make me sit at the table and sound things out and spell it. And if I didn't spell it right, I'd be there all day. Like, it was funny. I remember I was in like 3rd grade, and my family's Jamaican, so I couldn't spell Jamaica. And my dad literally had me I was probably at the table for like 6 hours. Bro, I had 6 pages, and I was trying to spell it out, and then I spell it right, and he'd be like, all right, that's right, and he'd like do it again, and he'll take the paper, and I'd be like,
just reps. Just reps.
Just repping it out, man. But it was later on, it was like, okay, I realized why he did it.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And so
I'm just gonna say that was probably an important lesson. You realize later on of just like reps is the only thing that matters in life.
Oh yeah.
Like the only thing, especially once you get of age, it's like osmosis ain't here no more. It's reps. Just put the reps in.
Just like shooting, man.
Yep.
It's just
Point
like
blank.
shooting. Putting them reps in.
Point blank. That's the only way.
Exactly.
So we keep going. Like what? Middle school, pop up in Lockhart. Well, I went to elementary school in Frangus, which is more towards like the start of Olympia. It's like in the back of a neighborhood. If you're driving down 408 and you get past like where 50's on the left, you can actually see this school like just back there.
Okay.
But in reality, it's like you got to go through a whole neighborhood.
Okay.
So there, and then moved to Lockhart, and it was like I have no friends now. I mean, I had the friends in the neighborhood, but like I have no real friends in the school.
Night and day, huh?
Complete night and day. Like affluent Lockhart, and it's just like, all right, this is people are living their life here. Like this is working class all day long here. So it was a little bit of a culture shock, but I had a couple friends that made it better. And then I remember, what is this? So this is 2010, 2011. I think 2011. That's when the Osama raid happened.
Yes.
And that was my first time being like military.
Yeah.
Because it was like the SEALs came out. It was said who did it.
Team 6.
The fucking everybody made all these documentaries, and it was just SEALs, and it was just like, oh. And then during this time, I had a track coach who was working at the school. He was a former Vietnam guy. He did like some kind of covert stuff with the dog and like sniffing out bombs on some solo stuff. And he was like, we had some guys being like, oh, like they're not the top secret. He was like, no. He's like, these are like, it doesn't get more black op than these guys. He's like, you're not even supposed to know this happened. Yeah. But like it's in the news right now. And I was just like, that's a cool job.
For real.
So from that point, it was just kind of like, all right, in my head. I remember they let me on the basketball team. It was terrible. I was a skateboarder. I could skate. All the dexterity was in my feet. Hands and shooting, hadn't quite made it, but like skating is like shooting. Like it's reps. Like you don't just land a kickflip. You got to do 100 or 1,000 misses to get that one. So I took that into basketball, and it was just like, okay, just keep trying. But it's like, I mean, if you're black, you're playing ball from like 5. I started skating at 5. So I'm at a major difference of like, people are like, they're working their skills, and I'm like, yo, I am terrified every practice because it's like, yo, I'm going to get crossed. Like, they're going to shoot. Like, I got to think twice as hard, and this is instinctual for some of y'all right now. But I had a coach that was like, he's like, you put in good work. Like, I'll just give you a chance pretty much. And I remember the day, like pretty much the day I got the chance, Wakaiva came, they scrimmaged us on, just like their JV team or their freshman team. And I was like, these guys are bigger, stronger, faster. I need to be as scary and as quick as I can be to stop them from like embarrassing me. So we did, the 2-3 defense. I think I was, back left as a forward. And they throw the ball to one side. He's like, rush. Y'all just double team, rush that. And I was like, all right, I got you. Ball come over here. I'm on you like white on rice right now. And coach was just like, I'm like, this guy got some hustle in you. And I was like, I'm terrified. That's it. Like this ain't skill right now. I'm terrified of getting blown past and everybody like cracking the jokes and whatever. 8th grade and everything, you get to high school, go to Olympia. So we move like just out of nowhere. I remember it was like 8th grade year. My mom's like, we're moving. And it was like, what? She's like, yeah, in 2 weeks, pack up the room. What do you mean we're moving? Moved back over towards Balboa. Get ready for school, end up at Olympia, do all 4 years at Olympia, and then, go to Valencia for college. But Olympia was a huge culture shock because you went from all black to basically like affluent white. Not even affluent, rich white. Yeah. I had never been around like those type of people before. Like I know poor white. We're cool. We all from the same thing. You can't say nothing, but like your dad owns fucking Westgate. Like holy shit. Yeah, like that type of deal. Like I got a class with him. It's just like, oh, your dad like is a major salesman for like this major printer company. It's like, like you got money, you don't even know you're rich. Like that's the type of time these kids are on. So that was a huge culture shock, and then joining band, that was a huge thing for me too. Yeah. Band taught me a lot.
I got a band concert tonight for my 12-year-old, so I'm gonna be doing that tonight.
Band is one of the best locations, especially once they get to high school and like if they can march. I used to always kind of think of like marching kind of like drum or kind of like shooting just because it was like always in the back of my head. I was like, this is cool. You in a team, like you get 6 snares to all play the exact same thing in the exact same time. It's like, that is impressive. And it's like, you don't get, somebody said this where there was like musicians, you don't get a break. It was like, you can't play 90% of your notes.
Right.
It will sound terrible. You must play 99% of your notes, and that 1%, like, maybe they'll forget that. But if you play 90% of your notes and watch what happens, you're going to be looking at these people like, you fucking suck.
Yeah.
It's like, so that level of, like, attention to detail is like, I love that. I love that stuff. I just learned later on it just wasn't dangerous enough.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only reason I didn't go harder and go further. I was like, there just wasn't enough danger in it.
Danger.
It's like, once guns get involved, I was like, oh, that's why we obsess over every detail, because, like, that will happen if you don't.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, that was pretty much the progression. Let's start. So when you got in the military, what was day one like in the military?
Day one in the military for me was just basic training. It was just learning the ins and outs. I kind of grew up with decent discipline, so basic training wasn't too hard for me. My grandfather was a little bit of a disciplinarian. He wanted things his way, and it was his way of the highway. So I appreciated him for that when I got to basic training. I love basic training. I ended up in Dam Neck, Virginia, and I went to MA school for Master Arms, military police.
Yep.
And then I ended up down in, after I graduated from there, I ended up down in Coronado at a former BUDS for Naval Special Warfare. So I bounced around, did some training. That was the end of 05, middle to end of 05. I ended up in Coronado. Great time there. Got through my training. It was great. And then I was kind of like the Navy's whore. Bounced around and did what they told me to do. It was attached to First Group on Fort Lewis for a long time. I was down in 29 Palms. Was stationed with the Marines for a long time. Just kind of bounced around. Was down in Texas. Did a lot of training in Texas at Lackland Air Force Base with the Master Arms and the Air Force. Did a lot of training with them. And then I was a firearms instructor. So went to Cuba, did my Marines training. Also was at Gitmo for a little while, so I spent some time in Cuba. Left there, and then was just, at that point, this was after my first deployment. So at that point, it was more of training. I was more on the training side. So I was teaching people how to shoot 240 Bravos, 240 Golfs, obviously the M9. So I've been a military instructor since 06.
Heard. So to break it down for, there's going to be a lot of people that don't understand. Coronado, so Naval Special Warfare is done out of Coronado, which is the more, it's not the SEALs, but you went SWIC side of it, right? So Special Warfare, it's not the SEALs, which you all heard about and we were talking about, but it's basically the drivers for the SEALs. Like, they're going to swim in, but they also need some drivers, and these are the people that do it, so they're also just as badass. And it's still almost just as intense as the full BUDS. It's just a little bit different towards different phases.
Instead of 24.
Okay, yeah.
And so the last 6 weeks where you kind of pair up, we do our own thing. But yeah, it's tough.
So how was that? Because everybody dreams about going to BUDS.
It was hard. It was hard, man. It was just one day at a time is the way I approached it.
Yep.
I got sick. I got pneumonia. Didn't tell anybody. Toughed it out. The last thing you want to do in Coronado is get recycled.
Yep.
For any phase of training,
Get rolled back into the next class, and you're going through the whole process again.
The whole thing again. So for me, it was like, all right, you're sick. Don't cough in front of any chiefs or senior chiefs. Keep that and keep it pushing.
I think
that was it.
I think that recently just happened. They had a guy dying, BUDS, but like everyone's complaining, but it's like if you're in, it's like more people are probably gonna die here than like on the field, just because of how this thing is designed and everything like that. And for those who don't know, again, BUDS, basic underwater demolition SEAL training. So you get through BUDS. How many people started in the class? How many people finished?
Yeah, I think we started with 103. That got through our training regiment. I think we had about 26.
So 26 left out of 103?
Yeah, 26.
That's about right.
Yeah.
High dropout rate.
Yeah.
I mean, a little bit better than, the regular, because I think out of that, it probably would have been like 10 people, but it's a little bit better.
Right. So we had it was a different training regiment, but yeah, it was tough, man. It was tough. And then we ended up going back to Dam Neck, Virginia. We did our graduation and stuff in Dam Neck. It was cool. Yeah.
So when did you go on your first deployment?
First deployment was 2006. 2006.
Let's talk about it. How was that?
It was culture shock.
Culture shock. Where'd you go? Where were you? Iraq.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're at Camp Victory in Baghdad. just doing city patrols. I was pretty much an MA.
Okay. What's that?
Master Arms.
Master Arms.
So military police. We did city patrols and we did access control to the base. So.
Is there anything major happen on that deployment? Anything worthwhile?
Yeah, I mean, towards the end, we were doing city patrols and we had contact a few times within the city. IEDs, doing convoys to get to our posts and stuff like that. We had to deal with IEDs going off.
And this is 06. So like it's IED, high. Like that is how they're hitting us right now.
It's high, bro.
Yeah.
It's high. So and then after Iraq, we went to the Horn of Africa.
Somalia.
Yeah, we're in the water.
Yeah, it gets fucking nasty out there. Like those great whites are real right here.
Yeah, man. I ain't going in the water. But I ain't going in the water. Let's clear that up. I was on a boat. But we had some boat teams. We did some piracy missions. Just try to keep
doing the pirates.
Yep, trying to keep the as close to shore as possible. Safe.
What year was Captain Phillips? Was that?
I couldn't even tell you, bro.
No, I don't remember what year that was.
Yeah.
Heard.
Yeah, that was before me.
All right, so you got first deployment. You come home. What's it like going from deployment to coming home?
Different. Just for me, it wasn't. I know a lot of people had a lot of issues with transition. I didn't. I was just happy to be home.
Yep.
Spend time with my friends and family. But I wasn't home very long.
Yeah. How long were you home?
2 months.
2.
And we were back in Africa. That was an experience. And in the beginning of 07, went to Afghanistan. And then was at CAF in Kandahar for 9 months.
How was that?
Tough.
Yeah.
Tough. That was my toughest deployment.
Yeah, you guys get out there in the fight a lot?
Everything. Yeah, every day. Every day we were in the mix.
Every day?
I call it every day.
So out of a 9-month deployment, out of a week, how many times might you get indirect or direct fire at you?
We probably did missions 4 days out of 7.
4 out of 7, you're going out?
All 4 days.
Yep.
You get some sort of action.
Yep.
Even if it's not like direct, even if it's just like we gotta cross a path, there's a couch in the middle of the road.
Yeah.
We gotta call EOD to come clear it and get us through.
Just always those fucking breath hold moments of God damn it, here we go again.
Yeah, so CAF was tough. But yeah, that was my toughest deployment for sure. I think I got to Iraq after. I don't want to say after it died down because it was still active, but it wasn't as active
as it had been. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad I didn't go straight from high school and go into that because from what I hear from friends, 04, 05
was busy and rough.
02, 03, 04, 05 was really rough. So,
just hearing the stories that are coming out now, it's like, oh God, y'all were going through it.
Oh yeah, it was rough.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of like with me and Kandahar. We were kind of that was early.
I'm gonna say Kandahar is also one of those places from Afghanistan though. So like, if you went here, you got experience.
Yeah, it was early Afghanistan, so it was tough.
So. All right. So with that one, how does that deployment end? Nothing too bad happens on that one.
No. People that I knew, we lost, but nobody in my unit, in my division.
No one directly.
No, nobody directly.
Yeah, that's a big
Friends,
thing.
Guys I worked out with at the gym, things like that, but nobody really close. So that was successful deployment in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, no one in your unit does. It's like, hey, even though it sucks,
made it.
We all made it.
Yeah. So it was cool. Came back home, and that's when I really started spending time. 07 is when I really got to Fort Lewis. At that point is when, I just was kind of more. I didn't deploy after that, so it was more stateside. Which I didn't really get too much of experience in the first 3 years in the military. So this was more my stateside time, and I was on Fort Lewis, stationed on Fort Lewis. So it was. I lived in Lakewood. Was on Fort Lewis. I didn't have too much of a commute. It was cool. Yeah, it all worked out.
All right. So now you're just doing a lot of training stateside. When do you exit the military?
2011.
And why were you medically discharged or what?
No, I got out because kids, man.
Kids?
My oldest in '07, my next one in '09, and then my 12-year-old in 2010. So I had those three like back-to-back kids. So 2010 I had 3 kids. I was 24.
20.
Yeah,
I want to leave that. I want to leave that detail out.
24. My wife and I, we were about to get married. We ended up getting married 2012. So it was like, all right, cool. I got this family. My job just required me to be gone a lot. So let me get out and start figuring things out.
It is very tough on a lot of relationships for military guys, just 'cause, especially in the special warfare community, just because you're gone all the time, like at least 200 days, like minimum, you're gone. Whether it's for the deployment, for workup, for training, whatever, you're just out.
For sure.
Okay, so you get out. When do you join police?
So my first real law enforcement gig was I did the gate at Fort Lewis. We were checking IDs on the gate, and then I got into working for armed security contract at Fort Lewis, and then transitioned into law enforcement from there. So I started working for ICE in 2014.
So let's get back. How were you into guns? Were you a big 2A person prior military, or did like you get all the gun training in the military and you're like, oh shit, like I'm really good at this?
My family has been pro 2A. My Uncle Carl, of course, and then I have uncles that have always carried and always exposed me to firearms and stuff like that. So I would say I was pro 2A. Not really deep into the game, but I was pro 2A early.
I was actually just fascinated. Like my mom did not want me to get it. Like she didn't even want toy guns. Like was just not having it. All that same deal. I think I got like a little like 270 pump, pump pellet gun. Probably when I was like 12. I think my dad gave it to me. I was in like 6th grade and like starting shooting cans and stuff. It's just like, oh, like this is cool. Yeah. And then I remember that same thing. Basically, a room, a little bit, essentially if this was the room, my bed might be like right here, and I think the closet was probably where that TV is. And the shoe racks that you could essentially just hang up. Yeah. I would put like a little a scarf back there. I hang a target up. And I remember one night, like I was practicing with this thing. My dad had he had a bigger pellet gun that had a scope on it, like a little 11x12. Yeah. Took that thing, put it on mine. I'd sit in the back of the room. Remember I hung a nail up like with some tape just on the front of it, and I was like, all right. Hit the nail, and I was just like, all right. It was the first time knowing, like, all right, bro, you can kind of shoot. Like, you do this. You got some aim, even from 5 yards, maybe 7 max. Yeah. Probably not. But yeah, that was my intro. But like, guns was just not a thing. I think the first time I saw a real gun was actually kind of terrifying. I think it was Halloween, and like my cousins were just opening the door trying to give people candy. And I think this is probably 05, so like banging is kind of huge in Orlando, or at least it's starting to bubble during this era. And I remember she was trying to like give him candy, and I'm pretty sure he like pulled a gun out. And I just remember looking at something black and like there being a hole on the front. And I was just like, that doesn't look like he wasn't trying to rob her. I think like she knew him and just trying to flex this thing or whatever. But it was just like, I'm almost certain that's a gun. Yeah. Like I'm almost certain, but I'm like too young to really say anything. So I'm just like, I'm gonna just move this way so I don't get hit. Like instincts just knew like, yeah, that's not a place you want to be. Yeah, that was my intro to guns. Like that's essentially how I got into it. So your police. Or that's the first start of your police career. How does it keep progressing? I
leave Washington. I come here. I get into.
How long did you live in Washington?
From 2007 to 2018.
So when you got off your second deployment, you moved to Washington?
Yeah. Well, I was already stationed there, but I don't even count like my first couple of years. I was in Afghanistan.
Heard.
So, but I left from 07 to 18 is kind of like my time in Washington. End of 18, beginning of 19. Okay. So I got here almost exactly 4 years ago. Okay. And then I get into corrections at 33rd. Yep. Did that for like a year. Great experience. Then I transitioned into police department here. Did that for a little while, and now just running W6, man. Yeah. So altogether I probably have like 5 years law enforcement, 6 years military. Okay. So it's breaks in between. Yeah. But life changes my route.
Kind of just puts you in different places. That was honestly the same deal. So this is around the time that we started meeting up. So this is if we go 2019. I graduated high school. People are gonna laugh at me for this, but I graduated 2017. So I did not go into the military because of the 2016 election.
Right.
It was like in my head, like freshman year of high school, like I told you, the SEALs did that raid on Osama, and it was like, okay, this is cool. And then I just started doing the research, and I'm like, the mindset, learn about buds, like you just got to be mentally tough. So I'm like, all right, like I'm just slowly starting to get into it. And then I remember like I said, I was huge in the band, and then DCI is like the highest level, essentially, of outdoor marching that you can do, and it is like that, like you, whatever the highest level is, and whatever you know, like that is what these guys are. So I just started learning their music, like trying to get like them as much as possible, just hacking at it every day. And then because we moved from Lockhart to basically Balboa, where we originally stayed at, everybody has the house called the Big House, which is like the central. We moved out because my mom got married, and then as we started to move again, we moved back in there just for a little bit until we could find a house. But I didn't have a high school. Like leaving 8th grade, I was not enrolled at any high school. Like Wakaiva wanted me, but obviously I'm not living in Beggs anymore. And it was like, I wanted to go to Edgewater because one, there was a girl that was going there, but the band was also better. It was like Edgewater, but like it is established. Like this is the closest thing to what I want. So like I'm trying to go here. And I remember even from way over there, like I would have my cousin, they would have like, kind of training days during the summer. I have my cousin like drive me way over to Edgewater just to practice with him. So I was like, you're not going to leave me out. Like you will know my name. You'll know who I am. Like I'm trying to get a spot on this thing. So once a week, she'd try to drive me out there, but like I wasn't enrolled, like we didn't have a house, anything. So the instructor was pretty much just like, hey, like you kind of can't, like OCPS rules, you kind of can't come here if you're not enrolled. Like it's just a liability for us. So it was like, man, I get it. So I remember I went on YouTube and I'm like, high schools around this area, or high school bands or whatever. I'm watching Ocoee, West Orange, Olympia pops up, and I'm just like watching their band movements. And I remember seeing Olympia, and I was just like, all right, that's pretty similar. Yeah. So like, go to the Olympia website. Was like, all right, let me try to find the band director's email. Yeah. I can find the email. This. Hey, I'm in the area looking for a school, whatever. Send the email. I think maybe the next day or 2 days later, he sends me an email back, and he's like, hey, we're actually about to start rookie camp in like a few days. Like, come. I think it was probably like a Wednesday, Thursday. You're like, just show up. And I was like, all right, heard. Dad drove me up there. I remember going there. I know absolutely nobody. Like, I knew almost nobody. Like, I knew 3 people. Like, I know nobody here. Everybody I would have known, we went to elementary school. But, middle school, like, you're not the same. You become your person in middle school. So now it's like, I knew you, but I don't know you. So go in the band. Black girls out front. So I was like, all right, at least first good sign here. Like, go inside. This is how I knew. I was like, okay, I know what I'm getting into. This guy goes, what do you do? He's like, I was like, I'm a percussion. He's like, oh, there's another black kid in percussion. Thank God. And I'm like, oh, fuck. like now I know what this is. He's like, Meyer doesn't count. I was like, Meyer doesn't count. Jesus. Like, all right, heard. See it on white kid, like, okay, there they are. Drums are right in front of them. Like, all right, this is my group of people. Find the and shake their hand. And just enough, like, they just let me hang out. And I was like, interesting. And then band camp was that Monday. So this is like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, weekend. Band camp is that Monday. And band camp is maybe 7:30 to 7:30, like 12. Like, it was an intense year. They were trying to really go for it, really like make the band have a name this year. And I am not enrolled. And like, there were so many things that were perfect, because like I show up and they have 3 snares, 2 tenors, and they had 5 basses, but their 5th bassman quit. Just right before rookie camp, he quit. He's like, I'm not doing it. And they were all like close, and it was just like, he was the oddball of just like, out of nowhere quit. So I show up and it's like, we have 1 spot open right here. And it was like 5th bass. I am this skinny as hell. 5th bass is like 50 pounds just hanging off the front of you, big as hell. I know none of the music, but I was like, fuck it. Like, I'll take it. I'll learn it on the fly. So band camp comes first week. I am lugging around this thing, trying to learn everything on the fly. Like, they already been practicing music for the summer, and I'm just trying to put it in, trying to march this big ass bass. Like I said, for the first 4 days, 12-hour days, just with this band. Still not enrolled at this school. I think we've been riding around. We found a house in the neighborhood that we were living in, but this is also like hindsight. This is when the start of the housing market was kind of getting crazy, because we put an offer in and somebody just came and bought it cash. And it's just like, oh my, like, this is 2013. So it's just like, oh, like, this is Jesus. Like, you're a big roller, like, doing this. So we kind of lost that one. The second week, this is like 2 weeks before school starts, still not enrolled at a school. Camp is still happening. But something else happened where the entire front ensemble, so if you ever see a marching band, there's, the conductor, and then there's like people in front of them on giant pianos, essentially. All of them quit, but one. Everybody, like, nobody was coming back. And there was one person that was coming back, and they were like, hey man, like, we don't have a front ensemble. Like, we need just as many bodies as we can put, and it's pretty much only 3 of y'all. So first one in, last one out. or last one in, first one out. So it was like, hey, you can't march base anymore. You got to go to pit. And it was just like, oh, fuck, like a whole week for nothing. 12, like nothing at all. So Monday comes back around. I was like, all right, but like I'm in the mindset too of like the SEALs thinking. I was just like, yo, this sucks, but like suck it up, like suffer in silence. Like just put the work in, show up, you'll do it. Didn't want to show back up on Monday. They thought I quit because I came late. They saw me come through the door. I was like, oh my god, you're here. And I was just like, yeah, I'm here. I'll be back here. Sorry. Go there, do it, learn all the stuff, like just put in the work. I remember it's like Wednesday, Thursday before school starts, and everybody's like going to pick up their schedules, and they're like, Jay, like come on. I'm like, the schedule don't change on the first day of school. Like ain't no point in getting it right now. And I'm like, shit, they don't fucking know I'm here. Like I don't belong here, people. And I can thank my dad for this one because he was just like, I guess he was just admired the fact that like he's like, this kid is getting up at like 6:45, 7 a.m. to go to this place that he's not enrolled and put in all his work. Like I'm gonna find him a house. Goes back to the same neighborhood, just drives around for a while. On the back side, there was one house with a for sale sign on by the owner that just literally just said for sale. He was like, heard, contact, fucking threw the contract on it. The guy had just like had a heart attack. And this guy was like, he'd worked for the government doing like he was like a rocket scientist, and then just suddenly had a heart attack in the driveway in his car trying to back out. And it's just like, I don't know about that one. Fishy. Yeah, like just a little fishy. And so yeah, the kids were just selling the house, and they had just like put it out there not too long before. So they put the offer on the house. That was enough to at least go down. And this is the last day of camp too. So this is Thursday. I don't even know this. So I'm like, we're about to do the run through for everybody, and I was just like, this is it. Like I'm not gonna come back to the school. Nobody's gonna see me. They're gonna be first day. Like where the fuck is that kid at? Yeah. And so they come and they tell me like, hey, we found a house. We put an offer, and the offer is enough for us to go down to OCPS and at least enroll you here because we have something on paper. Right. And it was just like, all right, so you're gonna go to the school now. I was just like, nice. All right, literally nice. But like the culture shock hadn't even set in still because like I just fucking threw myself in. It was just like, this is what I'm trying to do. First day of school hits, and it's like, this is what you have to do for the next 4 years now. It's just like, oh shit, like you got to figure this out. And Olympia, even like we just learned this of like black schools, white schools. Like there is a difference in education. Like despite what anybody says, there's a difference. And people even know like you can go from Jones and be basically like on a roll there, come to Olympia, and the learning curve is so much steeper that it's like you're not at the top anymore. You're more like in the middle, just because of how hard they're pushing these students. That was me. Like I called myself trying to join honors and all these classes. That freshman year was a struggle, just because it was like, bro, you're not the good student that goes home and does homework and studies. I'm gonna do homework while she's checking it. You're about to get the grade. I'm like, shit, what the fuck are the answers? Like that is gonna be me the whole time through. Yeah, but this was it. But fortunate enough, like I was always lucky, just natural kind of leader. So became the front ensemble, one of the front ensemble like section leaders or captains. So that was cool for the first year. It was like, all right, get to do that. Sophomore year comes around. Our entire drumline was seniors, but one kid who was the brother of the senior. So the whole line was new. Next year we come in, reset. Everybody basically from pit moved up. I was lucky enough to, because I did that, and I joined basketball that year. And I wasn't like the basketball captain, but like he could kind of depend on me sometimes. He'd be like, hey, go talk to the reps, go do this, go do that. That was enough to kind of get me the center snare spot and the drum captain spot, even though this other kid like had already a year experience on the line. That was another learning curve because now I had to learn how to lead white kids as a black kid that pretty much only had black friends, even though I skated. Like I would skate with those kids, but like we don't hang out all the time. Like a couple hours out of the day, like yeah, we're friends at school, but like all my friends are really black. All my other black friends, like they could lead the group because like it was basketball, so it's like I'm not the leader in basketball. Like sure, I got the skills, but like I don't got the talent or all the skills to be able to fully take that command. And this is my arena. I just don't know how to lead white kids. Like point blank, I don't know how to lead white kids, and they have never been led by a black kid. So it's like, all right, we're all about to figure this out. Sophomore year was a whole nother struggle. But during this time, like I'm set on the SEALs. And I was like, this is gonna be me. I'm fucking every day, like I'm listening to motivational music. I'm also getting depressed because it's like I'm away from my friends, I'm away from everybody. Like it's just the culture shock is hitting me by second year. For sure. I did summer league that year too, like played basketball in summer league. That was cool. I ended up getting hurt. I had like it wasn't even like a real hurt. It was a hip flexor thing where like we were doing this drill and like my hip just did something weird and scared the hell out of me. And I was just like, whoa. In the back of my head, I was like, I'm still a skater. I was like, I need my legs. Like I was like, I can't lose my fucking hips trying to play basketball. So like I just never fully I was never able. And this is what I learned when people say like they get hurt and it's like you're always scared and hesitant. From that moment on, I was always scared and hesitant. I was never the same as I was with basketball. And then I fell out of rotation for the fall next year, so I was even behind again. So then it was just like, all right, bro, like you should probably concentrate on drums. And it was also getting serious. Like we were going to out of state to do competitions and all kind of stuff. So it was like, all right, this requires attention to detail. Junior year, kind of the same deal. It was like military is like, I'm not going to college. It's just like that's not going to be me. Military will pay for my college if I'm going to go at all. But like this is what I'm going to do. And then junior year, band gets more intense. Like we get a new instructor in, and like he is like that. He's teaching one of the top groups in Orlando too, and we're lucky enough to have him. And he's like pushing and getting us funding like we've never had. Like we got new drums that year, which was like a big deal. Like they had money at the school. Yeah. Olympia was my college. Like going to that high school was like going to college, especially coming from Lockhart. It's like no money, they're funding us like tens of thousands of dollars for whatever we need. Yeah. Like so we get new drums that year. By junior year, he's buying us sticks. He's buying us new drum heads. Like he's giving us equipment. It's like, hey, you need new sticks. Like go change them out. Like you don't have to buy them yourself anymore. Just go pick them out of the cabinet. It's like, oh god, like this is different. We're doing indoor, so now we have our own dedicated like season 2. Like I said, the attention to detail is just picking up. Like you have to know everything. You have to be able to play at this higher level. Right. By senior year, like we are it. The line has all been together for 3 years now. Like we all know each other. Even the rookies, like we've set the standard. So it's like, yo, if you're gonna come into this is what you got to meet. Yep, and they did it. Like they came up in every competition we went to. We pretty much destroyed that whole year. Like first place. I think we got second once. And at least the biggest competition, I remember my center tenor was looking at me on the bus. It was down in Tarpon Springs, Tampa, and this group, like, they win nationals. And I think we beat their drums this night. And it was like, well, no, we didn't, because you can't win at your own when you're hosting. Okay. But he was like, you think we're going to win best drums? And I was like, no doubt. Yeah. Just like, didn't even question, just no doubt. Yeah. We do our thing, like the lot. We get to play in the first note. Everybody's head go, just like the volume of what we were playing. They were just like, oh, God. Theo did the thing. We're in the celebration or in the ceremony afterwards. That was a shit show because everybody was passing out. You ever, being just in dress blues, like you never lock your knees? Yeah. These fuckers were locking their knees. Like 3 people locking knees. The same center tenor had never been up there, and I was like, go. Like, I've done this 2 years in a row now. Like, I don't want to be up here. This is a long one. He passes. Like, he is on the ground. Yep. I'll look at his face. He jumps like, he's not here. Like, not at all. Another guy, he's wobbling back and forth. Another girl goes to a knee, does a Tim Tebow. It's like, yo, y'all are embarrassing. I don't even want to be a part of y'all right now. I'm like, this is trash. And it's like, we've been saying this for 3 years now, and you've done this all 4. Like, yeah, you're messing up right now. Senior year comes around the same time, but or that election's happening, and Trump and Hillary are candidates. I also turned 18, so it's the first time I can vote. That's crazy. And I'm like, this fucking sucks. Like, this is my options. I remember I voted third party that year because I was just like, I'm sorry, like I just can't. Like, I'm sorry, third party. Just literally, like, I was like, he lowered taxes over there. Like, I could fucking deal with that more than I can deal with him and her. But I was also like, if he becomes president, I am not enlisting. Because I was just like, what I know, I was like, I want to go to Buds. I want to do the whole thing. I was just like, I know one of those missions might be directed by him, and I just don't trust his judgment. And there were other people in the military that was like, that doesn't really, recruiters, I was like, y'all will lie to me up and down. Like, I will never listen to you. They're like, that doesn't really affect you. And I was like, no, for what I want, it directly affects it.
Put it in writing.
Literally. Put it in writing. He won't. Put it in writing. He won't fuck me over and send me on some bullshit. And then I'm not gonna say that it was him that did this, but like once he took office, one of the first missions, like they had a SEAL die, and it was like a huge deal. And I think he said some very negative things that the wife was super mad at, and it was just like that is why I didn't do it. At this point, it was like business. Like, I've been listening to motivational videos. Like, I'm in the mindset. It's like, I refuse to quit anything. Yeah. It's like, you either have to cut me or you have to accept me, but I won't quit this. Yeah. So it was like, I'm going to go down the business route. I watched my dad start a business when he got laid off during the 2008 recession. Nice. He started a landscaping company. Nice. He didn't even realize it back then, but like, I was definitely paying attention. Like, I remember there were days he would take us out and like just drop flyers. Like, cars parking lot, like stack up and just like, you only need 1 or 2. That's it. I fucking hated it because I was like, I want to go skate right now, and you have me out here doing this, and this is fucking awful. We had a big fight about that, but then years later, I was like, did the same thing for the business, and I was like, yeah, you remember that? I was like, I was paying attention. I just didn't want to do it at 12. Like, yeah, like I knew what you were doing, and I got it, but like, fuck, man, like, let me go skate. That's it. Like, that happened. Tried to go down the business route for 2019. Well, I started working as a lifeguard because, again, I'm head is SEAL, so I was like, lifeguarding, water. There we go. Like, this close I can get as a civilian. So did the lifeguarding thing. That was cool. Portofino Bay, shallow water. Didn't really want to do deep water just because that is a whole different, beast right there. Oh, yeah. Like, watching those videos, I'm like, yo, there is no way I'm picking this grown-ass woman up in 8 feet of water. Like, no. Sorry. Just not going to happen. And ideally, as a shadow walker, you're not supposed to get any rescues, and it's supposed to be very basic. It wasn't the case for me.
Yeah.
I at least had 5. I think I had 9 rescues that season. 3 of them maybe I shouldn't have gone in for. Maybe, at least 2 of them was like, yeah, he was playing, and like maybe you weren't, but like the rest of them was like, oh shit, like you were drowning. Like you were a kid that is drowning at 4 feet of water. Your mom is watching you drown.
Yeah.
And I literally had that happen. She's like, I thought he was saying hey, and my supervisor, she was like, no, that's why they train, because like he knows what that looks like. Yeah, like he's gone right now. Like
he's not saying anything.
No. And I think that season I only had like one major like emergency situation that happened, which was kind of an eye opener. I won't say it gave me like any weird thing afterwards, but like I always looked at that situation different because I was like training. Like you just learn like this is why you do training. Where it was a lady, like I remember the F&B supervisor. I'm just kind of standing around. I think I'm training to be a supervisor at this point. Like I've been on 6 months. They're loving what I'm doing. And I just see him kind of come over to me. He's like, yo, she doesn't look too good. And it's a grandma, like out of town grandma. It's the middle of summer. They're drinking. Don't realize that humidity and drinking doesn't go good together, especially if you don't drink water. So she is like in her chair, passed back. And like, I have a flashback in my head where like, I saw my I didn't see him die, but like, I just remember kind of waking up, going in the living room and seeing him like back in the chair and was like, that doesn't look right. And then I kind of ducked off, and that's just like a weird memory. But she looked just like that, and I was like, oh shit. Yeah. So I start the process. I'm like, ma'am, getting the gloves on. We're going through it. She is unresponsive, saying nothing. So it's like, all right, let's get her out of this chair. Like, let's lay her down. I'm doing this. It's a supervisor and basically what we called a lead or a vanguard at the moment. They're both very experienced in this moment. So one of them recognizes and he like goes to get the crash back because he's like, yeah, it's that situation. I was like, all right, I'm primary. We're getting her out the chair, trying to lay her out. We do the whole TLL thing, get her head back, and I'm like, go and check for pulse, and it's like, all right, 1,000, 2,000, 3, and I'm like 5, 6, 7, and it's like nothing. I was like, oh God, like this is happening right now. But like at 7, before I get to 8, I hear it. And I'm like, oh, that's breath. Like roll her on her side. Like she gets to the side, we throw the pulse ox on. The pulse ox doesn't read for like another 3 seconds. And I'm like, is that in the wrong spot? Like what's happening? Then it started, beep, beep. And it's like, okay, like cool, she's back now. It's like he gets over, like it's just like, oh, like that's why we do this training. Yeah. And it's just like the whole process, like the 3 whistles, like we got this whole thing we go through, and it's just like on the radio, like, yo, I need y'all here now. Yeah. And it's just like, this is like, that's why you do training. And it was just the first glimpse of like, this is why. Yeah. This is why you make sure you know what you're doing, because like that might really happen. And then I quit and I wanted to go into business, and I was just like, I had super arrogant as a 20-year-old, like I can go and start my own consulting agency and this and that. No fucking idea what I'm doing. Like took 1 course and called myself, a fucking guru and social media expert and all that. Failed 2019. Got a big wake up call with that one. And then 2020, I started in the gun shop. February of 2020. Well, I got my concealed 2019. Did that whole process at the Florida Gun Show. Mm-hmm. Our booth is literally across from the first guy I ever bought a gun from, which is total full circle. Yeah. And then we was just trying to tough that out. Went broke 2019. Was just like, all right, we got to reset. Like, you at least took the risk young. Like, it doesn't really matter right now, but like, yeah, you got to figure this out. So we I applied to the gun shop, and I remember calling, or I won't say his name, but the general manager basically gave me a 1-sentence email that said, do you still want an interview? And I was like, fuck it, yeah, I'll take one. 2 interviews that equated to about 10 minutes together. The Wednesday I was working, and it was just like, all right, this is where we're at now. I was like, I'll try to mix my marketing experience with this and make a love child in the middle, just learn the industry. And then coronavirus hit, March of 2020, and it was like, oh, fuck, like this industry just blew up overnight. Yep. So you talk about that, like what was that? Because you're already in it, like you're an instructor. Yeah, man. 2019 into 2020, what was that like?
Yeah, so I've always worked off my military credentials as a firearms instructor before I moved to Florida. So moving to Florida was like, oh, you got to go get NRA certified. You got to go do all the stuff you're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. So 2019 was the year that I did all that. I did the NRA basic pistol class. I did I did NRA basic pistol. I did NRA basic rifle. I did FD Elite Firearms Instructor School. I did the NRA law enforcement course. Became a Florida K license instructor. So I certify people to do G license classes in armed security in Florida State. So I did all that 2019. So 2019 was like the base. I set the base for myself. I invested in the business, got the rental guns, started buying more equipment. I had equipment. That was an issue to me. Yeah. But I had started buying more equipment that I use for myself and my students. So 2019 was like when I set my base. So when I think that's when we met, 2019.
2020.
We met 2020? 2020. Yeah, because you started in 2020. So yeah, to beginning of 2020 when we met, you started working at the gun shop.
Yep. It's like May or June.
Yeah,
like somewhere around there.
Around that time.
Yep.
Yeah, March, April, something like that. And so started doing classes there, and my classes went from 1 or 2 people to sometimes 25.
Yeah.
And 3 25 people classes in one day. And the influx in 2020 was crazy, like I'd never seen before.
Yep.
And to the point where I wasn't sleeping. I was just training, going to work, training.
That was a crazy year.
It was crazy. It was ridiculous. So did that, capitalized on everything I could capitalize on, and then just built the business from there. That was the foundation for Cover Your Six. As time moved on, we just progressed and started getting more certifications, more training, just pushing myself to be better. Because as you know, this is a business that you can't stay stagnant. You get stagnant, you'll get passed up.
Yep.
So
immediately.
Yeah. So that was my goal, was just to keep pushing.
Excuse me. Yeah. I mean, how we saw it happen was like, I mean, we're in there. We would be talking business like Christian. We're all in there just talking shop every day. Like, yeah, we all know we want to go into business. It's just a matter of getting there and like the different pathways and stuff. And then you start coming in there, and it was just like, oh, like we see COVID happen. Like we're still dusting off rounds every day. Like it hasn't fully hit until the lockdown happens, and it's like, oh, like we're cutting shifts now, and they're like giving us like, all right, clean the range. Like that's how we'll pay you for the day. Just like do this, like change these vents in both located. Like that's how we're getting. Just like, okay, it's not that bad because they were lucky enough to like. They consider gun store employees essential workers, so we never stopped working. At least they kept us in with that. And then of course the riots are happening. Like it's fucking the 1960s all over again. Like this is crazy. And during this time, it's just like I'm trying to get educated about stuff, just because it's like I'm no longer taking a back seat. Like I'm 2020, I'm 22 or turning 22 during this time. And it's like, all right, life is like about to really start, or at least like you should really be taking the risk, trying to get into it. So I remember asking police officers, like when they would come to a shop, I was like, yo, did the academy prepare you? Like, what, do you still like being a cop right now? A lot of them was like, no. Like, I was not prepared for this. I did not see this coming. This is not what I signed up for 6 months ago. Yeah. And then a lot of them would be just like, yo, the academy didn't prepare you for shit, dog. Like, I think one person, out of like, I want to say like 7, one said the academy prepared, and I was just like, you're a liar. Yeah. Like, maybe not, but like, I just think you're a liar, because they don't prepare you for what you're going to see out there. Like, everybody's like, the FTO. I was like, you learn in the field from whoever they're training you. Yeah. And of course, we had the George Floyd situation, and that guy was the FTO, and it was just like, that's what made me ask the questions. It's just like, okay, you're that way because of him, and he's that way because of him, and it's like, now you can just trace this whole lineage down. Yeah. How were the riots and the civil unrest for you you were corrections during this time? Yes. So how was that for you during that?
I would say more surreal, because I wasn't on the road yet. So it was more like, okay, this is the riots. Inside the jail, it kind of stayed the same. We just heard more complaints from the inmates, stuff like that. Oh, you guys are killing people. You guys are this, you guys are that. The emails that we got were like, stay cognizant of what's going on around you type thing, but it wasn't really a direct, I would say a direct impact at that time, because I was still, I'd say shielded. You know what I mean? We're shielded from the road.
Yeah.
We're shielded from like what was really.
I do understand that.
So, in the correction, that's kind of the beauty of correction. Sometimes is, when you go to jail, it is what it is. You know what I mean? The culture is the culture. But when you go to the other side, when I went to the road, 2021, it was like, all right, now this is the other side. This is
what gets them in there.
Right. This is how they get there, and this is what you have to go through out here. You're not dealing with people whose, I don't want to say rights have been taken because they're not convicted yet, but for the most part, their basic human rights are taken away because of what the decisions that they made on the outside. They're actually taking those rights away at that time. So it's a different animal.
Yep. I completely feel that. That's how I felt. We'll get into that, but like that's how I felt this summer, like getting into armed security. Like I had a moment where it's just like, oh shit, like, oh god. And this is like even before like the story that we're probably thinking of, like just when the first, like the shootings was happening during the summer. I was just like, oh, like
crazy.
like this is real. Like this is no shit. This is real. Like you could be there. Just still going through 2020. So it's summertime. Your classes start popping. We're seeing it, and it's just like, yeah, what the, like, he just spent 2 hours in here, and he just had 18 people. And it's like, we're all getting paid $10 an hour. Like, that's what I told him. I was like, yo, this is bullshit. like, what is going on? Like, that's all we got to do? Yeah. I'm in here putting in reps every day. Like, what's the pathway? Like, show me.
Exactly. And it was great, just talking to you guys, and you guys asking me questions, and getting my K license instructor was huge, because I took the class in 2019. I don't think I really even followed through with everything till mid 2020. So it was a while before I could even, help you guys get your G license and figure out what was out there. We had friends that went the executive protection route and had high value employees or targets, we call them in the military, but high value employees and clients and stuff like that, as opposed to the whatever you were making there. So that was something that I was glad I was able to do for you guys. Not just give you guys like guidance, but actually give you a way
to excel,
and get what you're worth.
For sure. I just remember during that time, like I'd be in there every day listening to books. Like I'm a huge fucking like audiobook, like all the time. If I have headphones in, it's probably not music, it's probably a book. So I'm like writing stuff down, like I'm mapping it out. Especially towards July, August, I was like, okay, my car goes down. I had a lot of stuff happen. So I got a case where I had to beat a reckless driving and a 30 over during the middle of COVID. On your birthday is when I got it. Right, 11:59 before mine. His April 11th and my birthday is April 12th. So like I'm getting it right then. It's $1,500. The first stimulus check is coming out, and that stimulus check is $1,200. And it's like, you motherfucker, you just took the whole shit.
The whole stimmy.
I was like, the whole stimmy and then some, because like it doesn't cover all of it. So I was like, so we're doing this, and I think a month later I blew up the engine in my car. So it's like, now my car's down. I think a couple weeks after that, I ended up totaling my mom's car. So it's just like a moment of like, sit the fuck down, kid. But at the time, I was also like, I was not focused. Like, I had the game plan in front of me, but like, I was street racing. I was doing all these other things. It was just like, bro, if you stop and look for 1 minute, you'll see that you have the biggest opportunity right here in front of you. You just got to pay attention. What's up? Thanks for watching if you made it this far in the video. I lost the last 43 minutes of the footage, so the rest of the video is going to be just audio the entire time. Thank you guys for watching this far. Like I've said, it means a lot. I'm just trying to get this episode out right now. There's been a bunch of technical difficulties and I'm already a week behind, but this is the process and this is just what I have. So this is what I'm going to put out. Episode 2 should be a lot better, although we did have technical difficulties with that too, but no excuses. Episode 2 will come just as episode 1 has come out. Thank you for watching again. It means a lot to me. That made me sit down, pay attention. I got serious about it like June, July, because I was like, I need my car back. Saw what you were doing. I was like, okay, I could probably manage this. Like, I know my whole tech background, which I didn't even get into, but I was a cybersecurity major when I went to Valencia. I ended up becoming the president of the cybersecurity club when I didn't even want to. Like, she literally just, I remember meeting the president and being like, yo, I don't want that. The instructor being like, I'm not really trying to do that. And then being like, here, like, you're going to do this because you beat him. And it's just like, cool, great. Like, yeah, way too early, which is also another lesson of like, some things it's better when you fight for them, or like you get the reward later on. Because like I basically got the top within the first semester, and it was like, where the fuck do I go now? Like I'm already at like what I would have wanted to go for. I'm already there, and like you can only push yourself so much to a degree. Like you just need something to look up to. So like I learned that too. Same thing with band. Like becoming the section leader the sophomore year on my first year was kind of like, who do I really strive to beat now? Like the guys are gone. The people I look up to aren't actually here, so it's kind of hard at a distance to admire somebody. Yeah, that's just like a weird lesson I learned. But writing stuff down, August, like I mapped it all out. I was like, okay, I'm gonna get certified this date. I can go here. Like Anthony and Christian were already certified. They had already done a first batch of NRA certs in the company before us, but I was such a new guy that it was like, there's no real point with you going. Like, I don't even think I was in my 90 days yet when they went and did theirs. So I was like, fuck it, like I'll get it done myself. Like I'm resourceful enough. Like NRA.org, like let's figure it out. These are the instructors in the area. I hit up like 3 of them, and I was like, yo, you guys got the number to the old lady that did yours? They're like, yeah. Hit her up, and she ended up calling the owners and was like, hey, your employees trying to set this up. And he was like, we like your initiative. Like, you know, we'll set the class up and do it, you know, pay for it. Only issue is this is late August, and they weren't going to set the class up until October. And I'm like, you want me to wait all of September? Like, it is literally like August 18th or something. Like, I was like, all of September. So I was like, man, like I could get it done. I could even get it discounted because I did the first half with you.
Yeah.
So like other instructors were willing to discount me. Like part of it, and it was just like, all right, and it's like you can pay for it on your own if you want, like by all means. But it was like, we will pay for it for you if you can wait till this date.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, I'll wait till the date. Just in the meantime, mapping out everything for the business, the name, the website, the booking. Like I was like, we're gonna have everything. And I even gave them a plan. It was like, this is exactly what I'm gonna do. It's like I need my car back. I want to keep working here, and I want to start this business, and this is how I think we can all make money doing this. They saw, they was like, yeah, I think we could work something out. Looking back, they gave me the best deal originally. It was just me being too ambitious and not realizing it and taking it. But they said I could do it at Shoot Straight. The only issue was Shoot Straight hadn't offered their instructor members back yet. It was only like closed deal, so it was like, that's kind of hard if they're not opening it.
Right.
Looking back, it was the best deal because we obviously know the business side now. It's like, this is way, way better than what we were getting.
Yeah.
So I did. I was just like, I'm gonna stay here, do it. Long story short, I set up the ads. Conflict of interest happens, and I get fired on like the 18th or something like that of October. And it was like, well, I have bills to pay, and I need money. Like, I'll get one more check from them, but like, I need money after that.
Right.
I had already become an instructor. We did the class August 11. Went through that whole process, the 16 hours. Shot the course. Passed it with the 365 XL. Everybody was looking at me like, you just shot that? And I was like, yeah. You did that gun, missed, and I did this gun and fucking hit. So, yeah, sorry. Point blank, just like, yeah. And so, yeah, then became an instructor and got the insurance, got everything, and was up and running November of 2020 as an instructor.
Nice.
And then we got through this whole way. That was scary for me just because going back from 2019, I was like, that business failed.
Yeah.
So I was just like, oh my God, like this is the exact, like there's no backing, like it did not start the way I planned on starting. Like there is all me.
Yeah.
All me, and there is nothing that's going to catch you under this. Like there's no job to fall back on. But because I basically put 10 months of work in at the gun shop, like shooting 22s, taking ammo out of, packages, just, let me go shoot 5 rounds.
Yeah.
Like these 5 rounds will make a difference. If I could just focus for every single round and make them all hit, like the reps count. And then again, you just learn like reps. Like you don't get good, like osmosis doesn't do it. You have to put the reps in. You have to pull that trigger every single time. And just because you made that shot doesn't mean you're going to make this shot. So you got to put just as much focus in for every single shot.
Absolutely.
And that was, I think that is what I fell in love with. Like more than whatever the guns offer, it's like the attention to detail is unmatched.
Yeah.
Like nothing's a guarantee. Nothing. You may do everything right. And for a minute or for a split second, you did something wrong and the paper won't lie. Like you just said, like it'll show you exactly what you did wrong.
Exactly. That's what I love about it too.
Yep.
It's the attention to detail and the work ethic that goes behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like when you see, the times go down on the shot timer, or you see the progression in a target that you knew you struggled with 2 months ago, but because you're dry firing every night, because you're getting 200 rounds a week up, because you're putting the work in, you're seeing the progression, and you continue to see it. So that's what I love about this.
In real time.
Yeah.
Let's talk about black people and guns, because that's a major thing, and for us, I mean, that's the reason we're still in business. Absolutely. Just purely like, I even at the it was like most of your like clients are women. It's like most of them are black women. It's just like you just got it like that, and I was like, thank you, but like no, not quite like that. Like maybe a small percentage, but like it's like sex trafficking is huge right now. Like women are terrified. Absolutely. So they're all getting their CCWs right now.
Absolutely.
But I remember a book that made me want to join the NRA was a book called Negroes with Guns. I was watching 85 South, and I think what is his name? Big Mike, Black Mike?
Oh, Big Mike.
Big Mike, from Atlanta. He recommended the book, and I popped it in, listened to it, and it was basically like, if all the black people flood the NRA, he was like, it's now a black organization. Yeah. It's like, just like that. Yeah. Then he talked about some situations like guns restored peace and stopped the massacre from happening, and, we have the Rosemont massacre, or, all the different massacres that have happened, and they basically stopped one in Monroe, Carolina, because black people had guns. Yeah. And it's just like, that's a pretty powerful statement, especially considering this is 2020 in the height of all the civil unrest. So at that point, I was like, yeah, I'll do this. I remember telling my mom, after listening to the book, I was like, I think I'm becoming an NRA instructor. And she was like, the NRA? She's like, that's full of like white people. She's like, I think there's a better way you could do it. And then I was just like, show me. Yeah. Tell me. What is the better way? She's like, I don't quite know. And I was like, exactly. Therefore, this seems like a viable option. And if enough black people join it, it's a black organization now. You can't help it. Fast forward, joined it. She couldn't be prouder. And it was just like, yeah, So fun fact, you can't always listen to your parents or share your dreams with everybody because they don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mom. It's just
no, but
it's one of those things that's true.
Especially in the industry that they don't know about. And that's I think that's the biggest thing. If they have experience in it, of course, your parents always have your best interest at heart.
Yep.
But if they have no experience in the path you're going down, sometimes you gotta take outside advice.
Yep.
And people that have been through it and gone through it. So I've been an NRA instructor for a long time now. I think the first time I got my certification was 2008, and I didn't even realize what I was doing. I just did it because it was like, oh, the teacher's class at this time you have to have it. And I was like, cool, I'll go get it.
Yep.
Whatever. And then I let that lapse years, and then because everywhere was pretty cool me using my old military credentials, so I never was required to have it until I came here, and I was like, all right, cool, boom, let's make that work. And then now, I'm glad I got it. So our options, the second time I got it was the NRA, and I'm not even sure if the USCCA was really.
I don't think they were popping yet.
I don't think they were popping in 2019. I could be wrong. There's been.
They were around, but they were not popping.
Right.
Like they were around, but they were
very few states. I think.
That was accepting them.
That honored the USCCA at the time. Now being a USCCA instructor, I definitely see the difference between the USCCA and the NRA. As far as the instructor route goes, I like some of the USCCA's curriculum. I feel like it's a lot of it's more updated. A lot of it's a little bit more modern.
Yeah. Like in 1860 something is NRA?
Yeah,
like Jesus
the NRA
Christ.
is still kind of old school with the hang fire and all. Wait 30 seconds and
it's like
I don't got 30 seconds in a firefight. But I digress. I feel like with the USCCA, the requirements, the lack of marksmanship needed to become an instructor is kind of something that stuck out to me. Like
in USCCA?
In USCCA.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like, man, it's there's people that I can put through a cover your 6 basic pistol course, and at the end of that course, they could pass an instructor course to be a USCCA instructor.
That's pretty rough.
So that being said, it's pretty like, all right, so you guys are pretty much making everybody an instructor. But I think the NRA's 15-yard qualification with the 6-inch
that's hard.
Is tough. Tough.
It is a hard qual.
There's experienced shooters that don't train for that can't.
Missed it. I was about to say, I remember shooting it like after I became an instructor, just like a couple months later, trying to shoot it. Was like, I just failed.
Yeah.
Like I did not pass it. My own qualification. Like, whoa, okay.
And so that's one of the things that I do now, even as a seasoned instructor, because every time I leave the range, I shoot the qual.
Yep.
Shoot it just to make sure that I'm still my marksmanship skills are still where they're supposed to be, and I put that work in because I know at every level, even when I know your time probably to become a training counselor is coming up at some point. When that time comes, that's the qualification. It doesn't change. So when you get to Virginia and you got to take that class at the headquarters and put that work in, it comes back to what you should have already.
Yeah, what you should already know.
And just completing that class in June, there's people that fail, like straight up. I'll be honest with you.
It's always going to be a thing.
Yeah, it's people that fail going to be a training counselor and couldn't pass what they had to pass to become an instructor.
Yep.
So that just goes to show that putting the work in is necessary.
Yep.
Because you can fail that real easily.
That's why I really like certifications, and even just like to the like college and just how culture's kind of changed. Like Google and I think Tesla said like we'll accept 4-year tech certifications over a 4-year degree just because like you have to renew that certification.
Right.
So you have to reprove your skills again. And it doesn't just like the complacency of like, oh, I'm an instructor, like because I've definitely fallen into it. Just like brief moments like, oh, I'm a good shot, like I know.
Yeah.
Then you get there and it's just like, oh shit, I just missed 6 shots and I can't.
Yeah.
Like I did not expect that.
Humbling.
So it's just like exactly like humbling. So it's just always stand on the P's and Q's of like, nope, every day gotta put in the reps.
Yep.
Gotta put in the reps.
I think we've all been humbled at one point or another. We've all been humbled, no matter how good we are or how much work we put in. There's always a qual that's gonna humble you. You know what I mean? So Bill Drill is the new one that I've been working on.
Yep, the Bill Drill.
Man, the first time I ran a Bill Drill with an index card, I think my time was like, with all hits, my fastest time was like 4.2 or something like that from concealment, and I was like, whoa, they want this in sub 3? Like
Bill Drill is hard.
Yeah, bro.
That is a hard drill.
I just ran it in 269 the other day, and I was like, all right, cool, boom, all hits 269 is the fastest I ran it, but my average is like right at 3. And I'm like, okay, if my average is between 3 and 3.09 or something like that, I'm like, if I can live with that. So like, speed is something I work on now a lot. Sub 2 second first shot. That's what we've been working on. 5 rounds in 5 seconds in a B8 in the black part. There's just the black area of the B8 and our B8 target. Things like that just to push yourselves, because you can't stay stagnant. You know what I mean? We want to build and continue to get better.
So if we move, that was 2020. We were hitting 2021. That was kind of just like, I feel like a building year. It's just like, all right, let's just put in the reps all year. Like all year long. Just 2021, just put in the reps. Like solo classes, like, all right, CCW, like even now, it's still like, all right, it's just me and you. Like, sorry, this ain't no big class, just me and you right now. You might get a couple big ones, but like, nah, we're just going to run these solos. I think even at that point, like y'all met me, like I didn't have a lot of gear. Like point blank, like I was like, I'm buying gear. Like as each event comes up, I was like, what do I need? Okay, I'll buy that now. Like I'll be there. I'll be a little bit late just because I got to go pick this up. But that was just because like I was new to the industry. Like 2019, I got the gun, first gun. I didn't get a decent. I mean, I got the Walther PPS on the Gen 1, which is like, I mean, decent gun. Did everything super accurate. Then I got a Canic. I was just like, okay, like now we're moving up. That was when they first coming out, so they were super still new still. And then the XL came out, and it was just like, you. That was next. And then from that point, it's just like, all right, we're here. Like, we'll at least just build on this. And then I always took the philosophy of like, I mean, you could have like 17 guns, but you're only going to shoot one at a time. And most of you suck with that one that you would like primarily shoot. So it's like, I could have all this, but sorry guys, I'm going to get great with this one. And all the principles will apply to every other firearm because they're all the same. And that's the only reason I don't buy a lot of Soaks. It's like, I can't shoot all these things. Like, I'm not going to shoot 200 rounds through all these guns. Like, let me shoot 200 through one, then have some fun with the other ones just as they come up. But yeah, that was pretty much all 2020 or 2021. And then I remember for me, just because it was like, it's still the first year, so it's like, let me go back and let me just go back to lifeguarding for a little bit. Like, let me not stress myself out every month trying to figure out where money's going to come from. That was 2021. So like, let me just do this again. Remember, that was easy work too. I remember I sent in the application. I think a week later, I sent it in when I was out of town. And then a week later, like one of my this was a guard that was super experienced during the time. Like he had already been there for years during my first rotation, but he was a regular guard during the time. And I had moved up to it. Like I had started and then moved up higher than him, but he had like discipline just because, when you're somewhere for so long, you just go through all the emotions. So he was just going through that period, but when he called me back, he was like the assistant manager of both properties in his time on that side of the campus. And it was like, oh shit. Like, he was like, did you just apply? And I was like, yeah. He was like, so you want to come back? And I was like, sure. He was like, all right. He's like, Fetty's going to call you. I was like, all right, hang up. A minute later, hello? He's like, hey, so this is you? He's like, what are you looking for? I was like, maybe old spot, whatever you got open. He's like, I got this open here. All right, come in for an interview like tomorrow. All right, literally cool. I go in, I'm seeing my mans, and he's like, this is a situation, I'm not gonna lie to you, it's shit. Just off the rip, he was like, it is shit right now. Just like point blank, he's like, it's rough, we're understaffed, the guy is new, like the head guy is brand new, not been a lifeguard before, so like he doesn't know all the skills, but like he has experience as a manager. It was just like, okay. He's like, if you want in, it's all yours, but like, I'm gonna be honest with you. And I was just like, all right, I'm in, let's do it. Go back to orientation, do the gig, go back through guard class. Fun fact, I had not swum in 3 years. So when I quit lifeguarding, was the last time being in the water. Did not get back in, I don't even know if I got into the beach water. Like a no joke, did not get in the pool or beach water for 3 years just because I was like, I am done with this. First time swimming again was during that requal. And I remember I got home late from the orientation that night before, and I had hot wings and okra from AFNF on 50. Okay. And I threw that up right after that swim. It was a good little 60 meters just down and back, and I was like, as fast as I can trying to do this freestyle. It just was not agreeing. It wasn't even time. It was just like in my head. It was just like, get done with this thing because like I don't even want to be in the water. And I remember they was like, yeah, I'm done. Like first up, like let's get this thing done. Went over like near this little island. It was like, I'm gonna go off the water right now because I know what's coming next. Handle business. Got back in. They was like, where did you go? It's like, don't even worry about it. Like literally just like, I'll be back. Let's go through the rest of the skills. So did that, got back in rotation, got trained up at this new property, it was Hard Rock, so it's just the sister property to my old one. Super small, like very easy to guard. You can essentially do it from one spot if you really wanted, and there's not that many people. But it was just like, all right, I'm gonna operate here, still running the business, do all the stuff. And that was good for like a good 10 months, was working that. Moved up to supervisor even there. which I was on the fence about because as I was moving up there, well, this was like 6 months, so 6 months probably came around March. But Christian was hitting me up for security. He was like, "Yo, get your license right now." Like every other week, he's like, "Yo, do you have your license? Do you have your?" And I was like, "I'll do it. I'll do it." And it's just like, "All right, I will do it. Like send me the place to go. Like I'll do it." So I paid for it, and I was actually going to transfer to the security department internally there. It was just unarmed, so it was like, this is easy. Every time I'm walking in, they're on their phones. Meanwhile, I'm at the pool, like working my ass off every day. Like, yeah, definitely time for a switch. Like, I call you when the situation's over. I've handled it all out there, and you're just coming for the report. And you don't even do the report. I give you all the information. Like, I need to switch roles. But it ended up just was like, they was like, I don't really think you should do that. A couple of people that was like kind of mentoring me, they were just like, I don't really know how much of a career boost you're going to get being here doing this type of security. And it's just like, okay, I don't even think it's the security that I really want to do. And it's in reality, it's not. It's unarmed at a hotel. Like it's boring. Lifeguarding is better in terms of that role. And so around March, I took the class with you first for the armed, then took the D license in March. And then I still stayed a little bit, so I hadn't even turned in the paperwork, but I at least had the classes done. But I was still on the fence about what I was doing, so I ended up was like, I'll just become a supervisor. I'll move up. In that process, that rotation was crazy. I didn't have as many rescues, and the ones I did have were like pretty legit. There was one like a little girl in the water. We basically had a slide, and this slide had a current that would, like, if you were a kid and you couldn't get out of current, like it's gonna drag you in there, and like there are grown men that come flying out of this thing. This little girl one day, she decides she's gonna swim head first into this current, and I'm like, she's underwater, like she's doing her thing, like trying to her best. Not even like she's actively swimming at the opening of this slide, and it's just like, hey, like get away from there. Get away from there. It's cold. I'm in full jacket, full shorts, and I got like sweats on under. Like I'm fully clothed right now. And I'm like, yo, socks on and everything. I was like, get away from there. I see one person come out before her, and then she goes to swim, and I was like, timing. I was like, there's a person coming right now. I'm like, all right, I don't have any more time to like sit here and look at you. So get in there, do the whole thing. I get in there, as I literally wrap my arm around her, I'm watching the grown man like feet first, like flying at me. I'm like, oh shit. So I literally just roll. She's in this arm, so she gets out of the way just in time. There's like people watching me in this moment. As soon as I roll, he comes out. And I'm just like, you cannot be doing this. She's just like, what? It's like, you're going to die if you do this, little girl. She's just like, okay, I'm on. And everybody's like, oh, that was a good move. And I was just like, fuck, that was a good move. Like, go me, because that was almost a real bad situation. During that rotation, I had like four emergencies, which is a little bit, that was unnormal. Like 4 and 6 months was just not a normal thing, especially as a shallow water guard at a hotel. Like you're not supposed to be having these. One was an old lady, she broke her arm. The other one, which was probably the craziest that I think anybody might have experienced, was 2 emergencies, 3 rescues in 2 hours. It was like for the last 3 hours of the shift, we just wouldn't stop moving. There was one employee, I thought he was having heat exhaustion. Like all the symptoms were there. Like he's shaking, he's hyperventilating, like all of it. His girlfriend unfortunately worked there. I won't say unfortunately, but she worked there. I'm on stand for somebody. She grabs the crash bag and she like goes over to him. I'm like, all right, that's red flag number 1. Like you've already moved the crash bag. I see him just like slump over, going down. I was like, okay, like we're done here. Like let's start this emergency situation. Get on the radio, do that whole shebang. He's there, like he's shaking. I'm like, oh god, like this is that. Cutting his shirt. I'm like, get the AED out. My guys are looking at me like, oh, like did you just say cut his shirt? Like, yeah, this isn't training. Cut his shirt off. So they're cutting it, they're doing their whole thing, but like I'm looking at some of their faces and they're like, oh my god, like again, training of like this is not a game right now. This is very serious. Get the AED prepped, cut his shirt, get that, get me this, get me that. I need you here, I need you there. Luckily I had like a EMS lady, and she was actually former military. They were just hanging out nearby, and ideally it's like, can you not hang out? But they were kind of adamant of like, I'm not moving in case you guys actually need somebody better. So that was cool. Just during the whole situation, managing that, he finally gets pretty stable. We throw oxygen on him a couple times, but because we do it twice, we call EMS. He gets stable. He's back up and running. As I'm about to like reopen everything, one of my other guards, she's running at me with a panic face again. She's just like, somebody just went down in the bathroom and hit their head. And I'm like, great, let's do it again. Glove up, go in the bathroom. There's a 72-year-old woman that hit her head on the ground, and she is bleeding out of her head. And it's just like, oh, I need all of y'all out of here, women, please, thank you. We get her, like she's a former nurse. She's just like, this is normal for me. And she's like giving me the whole stats. Just like, okay, cool. As this happened, EMS is coming through the back gate, and it's like perfect timing. So I called you for him, but actually we're going here now. So when you get done, please. We do this, get her stable. There's some annoying guest at the end of it. He's like, my daughter is suffering from not being able to swim right now. And I was like, you, dude. I just had my employee almost die and an old woman probably just like almost got a concussion. And you're worried about your daughter. She's suffering at Hard Rock Hotel. Like, okay. We open the water. Another guard saves the same girl twice in the matter of like she comes down the slide, saves her, goes back up, comes back down, saves her again. I don't even get to walk away. And then another guard who wasn't even on shift, he covered for somebody else for 10 minutes, jumps off the highest stand, goes in to save somebody. He's pissed because he's like, I just got here and I'm already wet. It's like, welcome to your job. So yep, that was the rotation. And then summertime hits and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna quit. I go to the Department of Ag, submit the paperwork, and I think the Buffalo shooting happens. Like a couple of weeks later, Buffalo shooting happens, and then Uvalde happens, and it tore me up. Like just point blank, I was like it was the reality check of like your Twin Towers for me was like hit home, and it was just like he just went and shot up a security guard at a shop, like for no reason. And it was just like he had on a vest, he has everything that we've talked about in training, like the Mozambique of like you're only gonna go to if that doesn't work, like you got to transition and like know what that like all of that was real, and I was just like the amount of evil that they just committed was just a little too much for me. So I went to the therapist and I was like, this is it, and I just had a good old cry in that office because I was like, this is insane, like this is what I'm signing up for right now, like this is. And then from that point it was like training really became real of like, okay, like that could happen. It's not that you don't like hyper focus on it, but it's like that could very well happen. Like there are people that will do that and you are in that official capacity, and what happens when you aren't good enough to like handle it or you're not prepared enough to see it happen.
And the security guard actually shot the dude from Buffalo.
Like shove it in the vest though, and it's like
that's why when Mozambique,
like
the transition to that small target is important.
And it's just like that stuff is happening now, so it's like, oh god, this is very real.
Talk about it, but then it happens. It's like, oh,
like
it could happen.
Oh, like that was, and he was like, that was a guy going to work, you know, normal, probably didn't expect it to happen, but like now you're in it. What are you gonna do now? Like there is no more training. It's all real.
He was
everything
as prepared as he could be.
Everything.
But that's just one of those things, man.
Yep.
So it's tough.
So that happened, and you know, we just started getting to the gig, working the gigs. I think the next real oh shit moment for me was that night with other Kyle and Chris, where we were out there, and it was just that car rolled up, and it was just like, oh, like this is real. Like I don't think we had any, because you know, our bud already left. He was on that high end detail, so he was gone. All the other team guys, like they were gone too. It was only me and Kyle. And so we were just working this lot like every night. And on this night, of course, the fight happens inside. They break it up. Everyone disperses. It's been like 10 minutes later. We're just trying to collect and get out of there at the end of this. And blue car rolls in, comes in hot. Like he must not have saw us just because there's a giant pillar that's on this like left side to us, and you just have this car right here. And we're standing behind it, but like Kyle already has a long gun out. Like we're already on stand. Like we're just on standby waiting. Rolls up, literally pulls right in front of us. Passenger door cracks open. I see the muzzle come out. It's like, that's an AK muzzle. Immediately see the brown. It's just like, all right, like immediately guns come out. Like we're yelling, we're giving them commands. Driver door opens. He's coming out too. So it's like, all right, here, and I know there are people in the back. I just know, and I'm like, they have more. This is one of those instances where it's like, you know, people talk about deadly force. It was like, you can use it. We could have used it. They would have gave us a high five, I feel like, for, you know, finishing that job that night. But it was just like, what comes after this? And like, this situation is not worth it. Not worth it at all. And then like in class, I told people, I was like, if they change their energy in that split second, I was like, you can change yours. You're not obligated to finish it. Like, just like in this moment, he didn't want to go. Like in his head, like that individual did not want to end that. So he immediately changed everything, identified himself like this and that and this. And I was like, all right, he got to walk away that night. His bud, you know, they all got to walk away too. They handled their business later on. Nobody got seriously hurt. But again, it was just like point blank range. Like there's no cover. There's nothing, like you don't get to adjust your grip. You don't get to see the sights. Like this is in front of you, and it's a matter of like right now.
Absolutely.
Like all fundamentals need to be there because you don't get to think.
Absolutely.
And people don't realize that. Like they'll be doing their job. They'll like be concealed carrying, have these things. They're like, I'll handle it this way. It's like, no, you won't. Sorry.
0 to 100
real quick. It's like you won't have time to handle it that way. Like you're not going to do a cartwheel in the middle of this fight. You're going to be flipping because you're dead. That's what's going to end up happening.
Not low chrome with no cover.
So when did it get real for you? When was like that moment of like, oh, this is no longer a joke?
I will say the first time was probably Iraq. Doing city patrols, everything was cool, normal night. And then it was actually back-to-back days. We guy. He had an AK. He was out past curfew. So it was like, before I address this person, let me get behind cover just in case. And I'm maybe 3 weeks in country. And I get behind cover. I find a little pillar, like somebody's house. And I'm like, hey, drop the AK. And he just starts letting off at all of us. And I'm like, oh, wow, we really got to engage this guy. It hit me at that split second where everybody found cover. And I don't know how, but I was lead at that point. And it was like, I addressed him. And he was like, get on the ground, get on the ground. He had a death wish. And that was just it. And it was like, it's either kill or be killed in that moment. And that's when it clicked for me, like, I'm not just here. Like, we're here to do a job. And that in that moment for me was when everything became real. Then later on, go home, go to sleep. That night we went from city patrols and we rotated to access control. So we're at the gate. Everything's cool. And there's a guy at the gate that's way more senior than me. He's an E7 Army guy. And he's on the tower. And he's radioing down, hey, this car not stopping. Car not stopping. Hey, he's through the second barrier. Because we have checkpoints where they have to slow down, stop, whatever. And this car obviously had the intent to not stop.
Yeah.
They started shooting the 50 at it. Boom, hitting the engine block. Still going. Still moving. Still trying to navigate through. Boom, boom. Finally get the car to stop. We're engaging the target, trying to find cover because we had like a bunch of barriers, bunch of like, I don't know, Jersey barriers, whatever. And I'm behind the barrier, and then it's like, all right, get out the car, get out the car, get out the car. And he's probably, if I had to guess, I'd probably say 100 yards, 100. He's way too close.
Yeah, like that's
way too close.
People don't understand. Like 100 yards with a rifle is like you're right there. You're next to him. Like you might as well just.
I'm looking through the EOTech and he's like right, like I'm looking
like,
in the driver's.
Like I could read the text messages on your phone from here.
Like that's way too close. And no magnifier, just straight EOTech. Like that's too close. And all I hear is boom, and I hear it ringing in my ear. It's just like, and I'm like, oh snap, his car just blew up. And I was just like, all right, this is when it's like less than 15 hours apart. I had two situations where somebody died, like in front of me. So it's like it's real, you know.
Yeah.
Thank God he wasn't close enough to really do anything. It didn't hurt anybody. The 50 took his engine out before he could get close enough, but it was just like
this is real.
Like, this is real.
This is not a joke. This is the real deal.
The 1 day gap, or 1 day period where it was like my whole mindset changed on my job.
Yep.
You know, and I'm taking that type of situation from there to law enforcement to anytime I carry gun. Just recently, we had a person that was shot by their significant other 2 times in the chest, and we had to clear the house, go in. Then the ambulance, because it's an active shooter, wouldn't go into the house, so we literally had to pick the person up, bring them in the front yard so they could receive the medical attention they needed to save their life. And so while trying to clear the house, while trying to keep it safe, we get into the kitchen and the guy's like rolled under the sink and we can't see his hands. So now it's like, we don't know what happened, you know what I mean? We know the female that was in there with him is in custody, but we don't know what he has or what the situation is. So we're like, let's see your hands, let us see your hands. He could barely move. Felt bad later, but it's like, you know, you got to put your safety first. And finally he was able to roll over. We saw his hands and all right, let's get this guy some medical attention. Picked him up, took him out, got him some medical attention. But just situations like that, man, where it's like it just clicks to you every time. And you know, it's been years since I was in that type of field. Besides the stuff that we do,
yeah,
you know, we weapons drawn and you know situations that we don't have to pull the trigger. When you see somebody shot, blood all over the kitchen floor,
yeah, like
you gotta walk through it to get them out.
It gets really real.
It
gets really real, really scary.
Man. So it always reminds me like it's not over. You know, we're still in this line of work, and as long as you're in this line of work, whether it's at a after-hour spot, doing a security detail for
whoever
protection, detail, whether it's in law enforcement or whatever, this line of work that we're in,
you gotta take it serious.
Yeah.
You gotta pay attention to details because they just matter so much.
Death comes with it, man. And that's somebody told me a long time ago, and he was like, the line of work that we're in, death comes with it.
I think that's the one thing, like, getting in, like, early on, I talked to the therapist all the time. I'd be like, she knew I was kind of struggling with that aspect of, like, yeah, I'm not trying to do it, but, like, I'm not naive. Like, man, like, I know what comes with this line of work. Like, I've been in it. I've studied it. Like, it's only a matter of time, unfortunately. Like, I don't want it. We've been unfortunate, but, like, one day, one of those guys is going to lower that too many inches, and then it's only a matter of pressure from that point.
It's unfortunate.
It is. It is.
And it's a switch that it's hard to turn on and hard to turn off.
Yeah.
To an extent too.
That's been the something else I'm learning. Of like, all right, you can't be there all the time. Like, you can't think that all the time. You can't be like that.
But when you go there, you got to go all the way.
Yep.
There's no half step when you go.
Yep.
And that's it's tough to deal with.
It is.
So
it
turning
is.
into a savage momentarily to make sure that you make it home to your wife, your kids, your mom, your cousins, your family. Being able to become a savage in a split moment and then come back to providing medical care
is a law. It's a big gap. It's a big thing to do. Yep.
It's a hard flip to switch. So
and it's harder for a lot of guys that don't even have help, and that's the big thing. It's like in our community, like not a lot of guys get help in this field of work. Like it's just like tough guy. Like it's just like yo, we can't be tough with some of these things. Like you gotta go get somebody better than you.
Talk to somebody. Man.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, like my cousin, the one I was telling you about, that was in the city for 9/11. She's like my sister, and like whenever I have anything I gotta talk to, it doesn't necessarily have to be a therapist. I have to be just have an outlet.
Just
you know what I mean?
have is not
therapist
thinking
is
about it.
Like I had dope therapists to deal with PTSD when I was in Lakewood. Shout out to them. But yeah, it was that was super dope in a time where I needed it. But just make sure you have an outlet. That's the biggest thing. Have somebody that you can talk to.
Yep.
You don't have to, but just make sure you have somebody that you can.
It is somebody you can, and it's important to like don't hide it. Don't try to sit here and be this big bad. Like it doesn't make you tougher. Like man, you could do the build drill in 2 seconds. Like shoot it. Like you are solid.
Yeah.
Come talk to us. Like come talk to me. But like put it on me. Like I will take that for you if you need.
For sure.
That's a big thing. Like especially with our team. Like I'm making sure like I'll embody that if you need. Like yes, I ragged on you hard. Let's come talk. like I still love you, bud. Like let's come talk.
Our group chat is definitely places that we can get stuff out to.
Yep.
And we can get better. So
Yep.
I like that too. Like we can debrief without officially debriefing.
Yeah.
Debrief on a group text, which is dope. So
Yep.
I love it.
All right, this has been going on a while. We got a lot more to talk about, so we got plenty of other episodes to kind of get it into. Like I said, this podcast, we're just going to use it to open up, to be real, to be raw about this side of the community, and especially from just black people in it that are actually operating in different aspects and, in different sides of the field. That's what this podcast is going to be, for, the black trigger trainers. Not only black, of course, white, because, we got one of the most badass white guys, in my opinion, that you could have in Central Florida. Like, that motherfucker's like badass. So, yeah, we're just going to keep doing this essentially every week. Putting this out there. I don't have days that I'm going to upload, but y'all will just go through the process. Don't fucking be on my ass. Just go through the process, and when it gets official, it's official, and we'll do it that way. But yeah, you'll see us next week with, maybe us, or maybe we'll have some other team guys here. But yeah, this has been fun. And that's it. That's the ender. What percentage? 2%. Yeah, that's really why. And I got to pay.